Hi, I'm Molly Matthews. Welcome to Job IQ, Career Outside the Box. Today we're talking with Ellie Giles, and I'm going to let her tell you a little bit more about her career path. Hi, Ellie. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. I started off very dedicated to children with special needs and ran a school for 30 years for children with special needs in an elementary school as part of Montgomery County Public Schools, and loved every minute of it, and was one of the pioneers in advancement of children with special needs in education practices and theories, and won the National Educator of the Year.
Wow.
And so that was pretty cool.
And well, when I first met you, you had just finished this.
Right.
And one of the things we're doing, or one of the things we're talking about here with our audience is, can you ever have the courage to pivot from something that you've been very successful in to a completely different opportunity? So tell us about how you did that.
Okay, so first of all, do you have the courage? You have to start believing right from the beginning. I've got what it takes, right? So that's not courage, it's confidence.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
I then decided to do something as far out of my comfort zone as possible because I wanted to grow and learn.
Okay.
So I started by I got a job as the director of operations of a newly organization that did economic development here in Montgomery County. And part of my role was to also visit companies as part of the business retention strategy. And I would ask them, what keeps you in our county? What makes you want to leave? And they would say talent. And I went, wow, that's probably my niche, talent, because I've always been in talent development. Education's talent development.
Exactly.
So when the opportunity for a new organization for workforce development, talent development opened up, I said, I'm as good as anybody else. I'm going to apply for the CEO. And I got that position 2 years ago, and we built an organization that does talent development, addresses both the employer and the future employees' needs.
Now, because I had a front row seat to all of this, I know that initially people who were involved in this were sort of like, well, we need to find someone who's done economic development previously.
Right.
So you, in some way, got them to pay attention to you as a potential person to lead the organization, although you had done something entirely different professionally.
Right.
How did you do that?
So the strategy was I wanted to learn. I was doing this because I wanted to learn, stretch my horizons, and so I went to the board, who happened to be fairly powerful, and said to them, I'm going to start off with my learning curve not taking any funds for this. This will be my volunteer job. But the exchange is that you each take me out to lunch and teach me what you know. And that was not only empowering for me, but they got to really get to know me at that point, and I learned a lot from that. So I think building those relationships is absolutely key.
And you were willing at that time to take this on as a volunteer with the understanding that if they saw what you could do, there was a likelihood you might get the job.
Right. Remembering my motivation was growth. So I was interviewing them as much as them interviewing me.
Exactly. And if you didn't grow in that particular garden, you were going to move
Absolutely.
to another place.
Absolutely.
So what's it been like going completely 180-degree different job?
Yeah, it's been a learning curve. It's been fun.
Yeah.
It gives you a purpose for getting up each day.
Yeah.
We're building something.
Yeah.
And at this point, in your career, when you pick that second direction, it's the difference factor that's your motivator. It's not the salary. It's not the kudos. It's hey, I have a purpose here, and that's hugely motivating. And what we're doing, I think, is being very responsive to our community, and that's extremely motivating and inspiring for me every day to get up and work with great people.
What do you mean the difference factor? What is that?
Tell me more what you're asking.
Well, you just said it's the difference factor. Maybe I didn't hear it correctly, but is it that you're doing something different now? Or
Right. So,
okay.
So going from being in the classroom, and education is a very secure, warm society. Everybody's there for the kids. Very similar personalities go into.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of political game playing, and you walk into the business world, and everybody's there for a different reason. Yeah. And trying to bring all those personalities together and understand motivations and understand challenges in the personalities and challenges in the job that needs to be done is a daily growth opportunity, and it's a daily challenge. It really is.
You were getting ready after the volunteer when there was an opening, a particular opening. You were getting ready to apply for something, and one of the things I've talked with people about is there aging discrimination in the marketplace? I suspect that your resume went in with resumes of economic development specialists, experts, who were potentially younger than you, possibly by a large factor. Did that intimidate you? Did you just figure, let the best woman win? How did you approach being on the older range of, because a lot of times, particularly academic development, they want to go, not that you're not a go-getter, but they wouldn't necessarily know that.
Yeah, I mean, there's no question that when you go and apply for a job and people are interviewing, that there is a predisposition that younger people have they're better to invest in. And it's a huge mistake. You can't discount the power of experience.
Thank you.
And you can't discount the power of confidence and knowing where you're coming from and what you can bring to the table. And that's something that happens with maturity, and it's just not something you can learn in a book. So I think that that's always a predisposition, but I also think you can overcome it pretty fast. I mean, in my opinion, I was innovative. I was creative and totally motivated because I love the mission. And if you start that way, their passion comes through better than somebody who's motivated because it's a title, it's a salary, it's a
their next step in the career in the career world.
So I think that broke down the walls pretty quickly, because even in this position with the CEO, I mean, my background is not in workforce development. And it's sort of crazy to go from 0 to 60 and apply for the head of the when you have not done anything. And I competed with people who had been in the field for a long time. But it was the innovation, and it was hey, try it a new way. Look at it a new way.
And you brought what you knew in education and applied it.
Right.
You also did have, it was maybe 2 years of volunteering. I don't know how long you volunteered.
No, I actually, I learned one of my best lessons in that economic development. I only did that for 6 months.
And then you started to get paid.
I started to get paid because the backup story to this is, and this is such a valuable lesson for people in their second career, is the boards came to me and said, listen, you're only worth what you value yourself, and right now you value yourself at 0. So we need to start paying you. And that was one of the best lessons I ever learned out of that experience.
On the one hand, you probably needed that entree as a volunteer, but as soon as you got paid, that was a good
Changed everything. Yeah.
Changed everything.
I would not recommend going in as an entree for a volunteer anymore. But,
Really?
I was afraid. So this is the problem with volunteering. You think, oh, I don't want to make a commitment. I don't want to make a commitment until I know I'm sure. But that mindset, it takes you more. It's then more about what you're doing as opposed to who you are.
Yeah, and when you have a passion, it's deeper than a volunteer position anyway, because you're passionate for it. What do you tell, because I know you do workforce development, and you obviously have a subset of people that you're helping that are over 50. What do you tell them? What kind of strategies do you suggest for them?
Start with, I can. I get many, many people who are over 50, the first thing they talk about is, I don't know technology. And I'll say, well, let me see what kind of phone you have. They have an iPhone. And I'll ask them questions about, what kinds of things they have. They do know technology, but it's been labeled on them that they don't know technology, or they're intimidated by technology. And most people are on the learning curve with technology because it moves so quickly. So my biggest advice for anyone looking for a job 50 plus is to start with what you can bring to the table, not what you can't.
I couldn't agree more, and that has come up in almost every single interview. And the sense that people don't think they're good at technology, and in fact, either they are or they can get it. If a 3-year-old can use an iPad, you can use an iPad. So we talk about that. I've talked about it with just about everybody.
Is that right? That's great.
It's come up. There's some things you've said that others haven't said, but that is one thing. The other thing is what do you think about the workplace? Is the workplace open to people over 50?
So I have a very narrow vision on this because in our county, the demographics tend to be more on the older side. So workplace is much more open. Our millennials don't stay here. We have a much more mature workforce here. So the workforce is much more open to bringing on experienced, I'm not even going to say mature, experienced workers. But I don't think that's true across the area. I was just out in Colorado. It's a very young area, and I sort of thought to myself, I would walk around and they were all millennials and young, and you're very aware of that. And I would suspect that if I walked into a business in Colorado, that would be a consideration, I'm sure, as part of the opportunity.
I understand. So you look back now, how long has it been since you were in a classroom?
Oh, so never quite. When you're a teacher for life.
Okay.
So I teach over at Hopkins and at Johns Hopkins, and still do teacher training. So from that perspective, the adult learning is something. And, then there's the informal classroom. We have a staff meeting every single week. I learn from them, but they also learn from me. So, the teacher never goes away.
Yeah. As you look back, this is a very different world. You're doing a very different kind of job. Are you glad you did it?
Oh my gosh, yes. Oh my gosh, it's been great. I mean, I look young, don't I? That's because of this? Because of this? Because I have a purpose, because I'm living life. I mean, I'm not thinking about getting old.
Yeah.
I'm growing, and oh my gosh, I would recommend it to everyone.
Really, would you?
Oh my gosh, yes.
I have two other questions. One is, any obstacles that you faced while you were doing this?
Lots of obstacles, but thank goodness for Google. Right? Google was my solution finder. There was a lot. I mean, didn't have the vocabulary. There was an awful lot of just even operational mechanics I had no knowledge of.
Yeah.
And I just refused to accept that I wasn't competent in it. There was a way to get around it. It was the research. But of course, that takes longer. And there were days where I would say, gosh, do I have it in me? And I'd have to take that moment and go for that walk and say, yes, you do. Yes, you do.
Yeah. That is really important. You were your own coach in a way.
Right.
The other thing I tell people about tech is millennials will Google a question on tech. It didn't occur to me to ever do that until I watched my son do it. And I go, wait a minute, I can do that.
Yeah.
So it's partly learning how to access the information.
And that's part of that actually came with being a teacher, because acquisition of knowledge is something you would start by teaching.
Yeah.
So that was something that I knew I could do. Interesting though, learning where the knowledge was more challenging for me than the application, because after I had it in my hand, and this is where an experienced person has the edge.
Yes.
After I had that knowledge, it was easy for me to then apply it to a situation.
Yeah. Although I think that's also a gift you have.
Oh, you
just
think
knowing
so?
you, I do.
Oh, you're so
I mean,
sweet.
when I watch you write proposals or do something, is you do have the ability to take knowledge and then say, all right, let me translate this into how we're going to apply it right here. And I think the people that are awarding you the grants do that because of that skill set you have of taking what they want and then turning it into something that's really directly. I really think that. Okay, I only have one question, but I actually have two. First question is, what would you do if someone came to you and said, I'm thinking of doing this, not really sure, maybe I'm just going to stay in teaching? What would you say to them?
I tell them immediately. I actually have many of my colleagues now that are looking to retire with me to it. So, this is my bias, but I think if you can run a classroom, you can run anything. And I laugh sometimes because of some of the teaching strategies I still use today in the boardroom. When we're getting some chatty stuff going on, I do proximity control. I get up and walk near them, or I use a graphic organizer. I mean, that's all the things we did in the classroom. So, I really do encourage individuals. I have to say there is some hesitancy because, especially in the world of education, it's a very warm, compatible kind of environment to be in.
Yeah.
But I highly recommend it.
I never knew that was called proximity control.
Oh,
I've seen teachers do it. I didn't know what you called it. By the way, you mentioned retire. I have people come to me as retire. I don't consider myself retired, and I don't think I ever have, and I don't think I ever will. And maybe that's just, you retire from one thing, but you're still passionate about whatever it is you're doing.
So my number one recommendation is network. Go out there. I learned where I wanted to go and where my comfort was. I had to first know what questions I needed to ask myself. I didn't even know my questions. So when you talk about retire, I met a woman who was phenomenal and has been a mentor, and she said, never retire, you just rewire. And that's a whole different way of looking at things, right, as I'm rewiring now. But you built a whole life of wonderful people with great insight, big advantage. So I would definitely encourage people to leverage their friends, to leverage the contacts they've had, to help better shape the direction you want to go.
And I have found that too, in that people don't realize the degree to which the network that you develop after several decades in the workforce is a big network relative to what anyone who's in their 20s or 30s has.
Right.
So, and definitely to leverage it, and people are very happy to share their wisdom.
I found, when we talked about going to the board, everybody was willing to help me. I mean, there wasn't anyone who went, oh no, figure it out.
Yeah.
I needed to know when and where to, so I wasn't bothering people, but there wasn't anyone who wasn't generous with their time and their patience to make this happen.
As you are being today.
Oh, well, thank you.
Thank you all for watching Job IQ Outside the Box. You can subscribe down below, and we hope you'll check out our website. We have other videos and more information. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.